One. Welcome to another CSO Wisdom podcast. We have Oscar Segurado with us today. Oscar wears many hats. He's Executive Advisory Network at SSI Strategy, Chief Medical Officer at ASC Therapeutics, and Professor of Immunology at Univers De Leon. He's been a professor for quite some time, and I am quite excited to talk with him today. He's basically translating R&D into medical practice, which is a really cool area. It's kind of the bridge between academics and corporate. Really love this. So this podcast is brought to you by podpire.com, which is my podcasting company. If you want to start scale, be invited to podcasts like this one or find sponsors. Podcasts are quite amazing to meet cool people, to learn from these people, grow your network, and even get leads and clients from them. Nice lead gen mechanism. Podpire.com if you need help with that. Oscar, welcome to the pod. Can you tell me a bit more about yourself and about what you're up to nowadays?
Thank you very much for reaching out and giving me the opportunity to discuss with you some ideas and hopefully help many people out there.
My pleasure. Your background, Oscar, that would be a great start.
I think you already mentioned a couple of aspects about myself. I started working in immunology for several years. And when you're an immunologist, you are a biologist, cell biologist, you're a molecular biologist, you're a protein biologist. And I worked in the research environment, also in the clinical research. And I specialize in some way in the T cells. And T cells are the master orchestrator of the immune system. They regulate a number of other cells, like the B cells and macrophages and NK cells, a number of cells that work together to ensure that we're able to defend ourselves from viruses, from avoid immune related diseases, autoimmunity, and so on. And based on that background, I started moving into the industry, first working in biomarkers, in biomarkers that are used for cancer prevention, monitoring, and detection. And that took me to a number of different steps where I was working with different therapeutic modalities. What that means is different ways or medicines that help people control different types of diseases. And that's what I've been doing over the past 30 years in the industry. Right now, I'm focusing on some rare diseases, some of them that require help from the immune system, like cases where patients receive stem cells to treat their cancers, and we help them avoid side effects from those.
Right. Oh, so just side effects, not treating the actual cancer?
So when you treat cancers, you have the possibility that these treatments also do the wrong things. And that's something that there is a situation where you give these patients a graft, which are cells from other individuals, to help them regulate the immune system. And these cells sometimes go in the wrong direction and start hitting organs, tissues, and this is called graft versus host disease. And we're treating that with cell therapy that we have developed in combination or in collaboration with the Karolinska Institute in Sweden.
So nowadays, I mean, you had a very long career behind you. You have an amassed skill set and a set of expertise. Then I'm guessing that you look, well, first, how can I get paid? Because we all have financial needs, but what does the world need in terms of my skill set and how I can help the world, right? So rare diseases, they're a small subset of, like people dying on a yearly basis. Why have you selected rare diseases other than like a disease that affects millions on a yearly basis?
Yeah, this is because we're using these rare diseases as what we call initial indication. And what this means is that we have selected a disease that is very well known, that there is an unmet need. And once we are able to defend these results and we see the benefits and that we have a good level of safety understanding of that drug, then we move into other diseases and other indications. And I can tell you, I have a lot of experience on very wide range of diseases that affect maybe even millions of people. And these are autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, several other diseases related to the dysregulation of the immune system, like psoriasis or Crohn's disease. So they are related to all tissues where the immune system attacks their own bodies. And the medicine I was working with is Humira. Humira is a monoclonal antibody that blocks a cytokine, which is kind of a chemical that is released by the immune cells, and it blocks it so that we are able to control the inflammatory process that takes place in these autoimmune diseases. And Humira is the best-selling drug in history. And I started working with that medicine in the year before the drug was approved, and that drug is now available through AbbVie or Abbott Laboratories at that time. So what this means is that you have to go step by step. So that's why we start with rare diseases, a very, very well-established mechanism of action, we call it, so that we can move into a broader type of diseases.
Right. And just for the audience here, rare diseases, the definition textbook is 1 out of 2,000. It's a disease that does not occur in less than one of 10,000 individuals, right?
Yeah, about that. That is a good kind of way to put it. Yeah,
but that's still a lot of people when you factor that in the US. You know, that's like 1 million people a year for each disease.
Yeah, when you put together all these rare diseases, you're going to see that they affect to about 10% of the population. Obviously, wow. There are about 7,000 different types of diseases, rare diseases. And again, when you combine all of them, that's when you get to that number, those numbers.
And why are they rare? You know, like, is it because humans are complex and it's just an unpredictable chain of reactions between their genes and the environment and their lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, the majority of these diseases are so-called monogenic diseases. That means that they are driven by a single gene or a single event that leads to the disease. And in many cases, these are diseases that are much better defined and they're easier to treat. Indeed, when you look into all the therapies that are submitted to the FDA, to the regulatory agencies, FDA in the US, you're going to notice that these type of gene therapies and cell therapies, and I work in both types, are more successful than other diseases and the way we treat other diseases. And the reason is because we have identified the function and the way these genes or this combination of events work in these diseases. So they are rare, but well-defined. Some of them are not.
Right. Then autoimmune diseases, have we seen them more prevalent in our days? I mean, back in days, I don't think they kept track of much things. Science wasn't even existing back then. So are there more autoimmune diseases nowadays? And if so, why?
So I think that's because, first of all, we live longer. That's the main reason. The immune system starts to deteriorate, is not so effective over time. And when people start reaching certain ages, they are more prone to these diseases. There are also some theories about the fact that we are sometimes too careful about being to ensure that everything is disinfected and that we don't have so much exposure to viruses and to bacteria in our childhood. When that happens, we don't train our immune system. That means that the immune system is not has not seen a number of what we call antigens, and it starts seeing some normal or some standard antigens that are presented by other cells in our organism as foreign, and they start attacking them. That's autoimmune. That means that the body isn't able to, hasn't learned, again, how to recognize their own tissues, organs, and cells.
Interesting. And yeah, it does make sense. You feel also there's more stressors nowadays with just more humans, and humans being creative destructors. They keep on inventing new things that we cannot predict the outcome. We pollute the planet Earth with a bunch of new chemicals. Do you think that also contributes to the complexity and the advent of these new diseases?
Yeah. And there is another factor that I've been working on. Part of my background is in neuroscience. And at some point, I started looking into something called psychoneuroimmunology. And what that means is that our mind, and especially when we go into situations like stress or anxiety or PTSD or burnout at work, we are going to have increased levels of cortisol. And what is cortisol? Cortisol is a hormone very similar to it's basically a natural type of corticosteroids that are used, by the way, in many of these autoimmune diseases to reduce or to tame the immune system. So what that means is that living in this world with so much stress, anxiety, is going to also reduce the potential of the immune system to function properly. So it's not about increasing the activity of the immune system or decreasing it. It's ensuring that it does the right thing and modulates any situation that we are working on. By the way, I got so interested in that field that I wrote a book about that. Is called is a type of mindfulness, which I also related to the different cells on the immune system. The book is called Mindful Framing. It's a best-selling book in Amazon, both Kindle, paperback, and audiobook. And it was so successful that last year it got an honorary mention at the Hollywood Book Festival. And I'm going to tell you now very quickly what I'm working on. I'm working on a feature film. I just finalized a screenplay, which is going to link the mind with the immune system.
Wow, love it. Yeah, documentaries can be really impactful, especially if well executed. I want to talk about a topic that's quite important to me, and that might be my next startup, which is artificial intelligence. I do feel that anyone relying on a doctor's prescription or somewhat conclusion, that's not super scientific. I would get at least like 10, if not more, conclusions if I have, that rare disease or whatever. And then a no or a you're gonna die is never definitive, because I feel that as human brains, first, there's no such things as like an expert. It's like an amalgamy of experts together as a neural net that could provide you more accurate conclusions. And second, these humans have emotions, they have their drivers and so forth, and most importantly, they're fallible, so their conclusions is somewhat limited, right? How can a doctor crunch 1,000, if not 10,000 papers together and make conclusions. Some of them are geniuses, right? They can't even explain how they know, but they know, and it's sometimes good conclusions. But my point is, I feel that AI in medicine can bring so much value. First question, which is a complex one. Even before talking about a GPT that would you would upload your data and it would give you potential conclusion, is when or do you even feel that there could be a pure in vitro instead of clinical studies, right? Could there be just a pure in vitro avatar of a human with all the biochemical reactions in their body? And could we accelerate discoveries with that software that would test out all the chemical reactions with the specific drugs, and doing that at scale?
I love these kind of comments that you made and your insights, because I am absolute believer in the future of what I call synthetic medicine. And synthetic medicine has a number of elements. One of them is the fact that, as you mentioned, there is a lot of data out there. And doctors are absolutely unable to put everything together, all the publications, ideas, guidelines, and ensure that they apply that to the actual patient. So we need to synthesize all that. That's all the data that needs to be put together and analyzed through AI, machine learning, neural networks, so that at the end of the day, it personalizes all these ideas to what one patient is going to need, the one that is in front of the of the physician. And would you see, when you go to a physician's office, they all have their iPad in front of them, or the majority of them have. And but you know, what they are doing is basically something very simple. They're just putting some information there. But the iPad at some point is going to be able to help them make decisions, diagnostics, therapeutics, monitoring of the patient. If you just Google my name and Forbes and write synthetic medicine, you're going to see an article that I published about 1 year ago about that. And I explain also the importance of another very important area, which is what is predictive medicine. So what we're doing nowadays is that we test blood and we get a number of parameters. And these are single biomarkers. When we put them together, we get into what we call signature. And when we got this, thank you so much. This is the article I was talking about. And when we put all that together, we're going to be able to ensure that we are personalizing everything that we get from this patient in a way that is going to help this patient in the moment that you're seeing this patient, that the doctor is seeing this patient, but also how it can be helping others, because you're learning. This is the advantage of AI. With each patient that you're seeing, putting all this information together, we're expanding the knowledge of everything that we do. So that's why, again, I think that this kind of information is going to be very helpful, and I'm a full believer in that. Absolutely.
I feel that, you know, my next big startup, because that's my calling. I started my first startup was a nootropic for the brain, and it's not that it lacked evidence, but yeah, we used like a bunch of research papers to build the formula and so forth. But the ultimate test is testing it on a real human, you know, not a mice, but a human in real time. I feel that there can be so much more that we can add to the scientific method and running real-time clinical study tests. I think that Apple's onto it, but I think my next startup that I'd spend the core of my time would be some kind of aggregator between X app and X app. So we would take, for example, Apple Health, and we would connect it with ChatGPT, and you could ask questions about your health, or ChatGPT could give you some insights like, look, your heart rate was this because you potentially because you took less steps today, or yeah, like whatever tracker, there was a lot of noise, or the air was filthy in Mexico City today. So It would try to correlate. It would give probabilities as well, like never like being unscientific, or it would try to be as precise as possible. So what do you see, for example, of in this field, which would be like some kind of ChatGPT interface in which you could ask questions about your health, be more knowledgeable, and then implement these tips to live longer, happier, and disease-free?
So sometimes I think there is a little bit of a bubble with ChatGPT and AI and so on. Other times I think that this is definitely a revolution. I've tried ChatGPT, just writing, for instance, something that I've developed, which is called the Neo-Chi lifestyle or the mindful framing. And I can tell you, when I read what ChatGPT is telling me, is better than I could even write it myself, because it not only summarizes all my ideas all over the place, it also goes into details. It kind of separates, and it has kind of different Q&A with better questions that I could come up. So definitely we are experiencing right now an incredible revolution. We have to obviously be careful and not forget something extraordinarily important, especially medicine. And this is what I call be careful with high tech while going over high touch. By
Right.
high touch, I mean the importance of the personal relationship that will never be replaced by any system. And this is something that we as human beings in some way need to consider. But who knows? Maybe there is going to be a way to incorporate this, what we call emotional intelligence, with this kind of approaches. But definitely, I am an absolute believer in that, and I think that the revolution is ongoing. But you know, on the other hand, physicians are very conservative, and it's going to take time until we are able to implement all this in the standard of care.
Love it. Well, Oscar, thank you so much for the time today. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, they can just Google my name. I would say Oscar Segurado, and they can pick and choose what they want to go. I have, again, my scientific career, my medical career, and then my career as an author. And hopefully I also am able to move into Hollywood. And I'm already starting contacting some people there about this possibility of a feature film connecting what I call the mind with the antibodies, the mind-antibody connection.